Radiating from the heart of America and stretching from coast to coast and border to border, welcome to On Radio, the wireless industry's weekly download coming straight from the builders and newsmakers of everything wireless. Your host is Jim Tracy, and this is On Radio.
All right, wireless family, wow, do we have a treat in store for you today. We're going to talk to one of the guys who's been around wireless since Shep was a pup. And if you don't know about the time frame when Shep was a pup, then you should probably do a Google search. But anyway, Brian Bicknese is with us, and he is in charge of making sure that our field workforce is awesome. And so he's got like 3 or 4 titles, but I call him like the ambassador of awesome. How's that work for you, man?
That'll work.
All right. Well, Brian, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
All right. So we love stories. I mean, the whole world loves stories. And I bet like you got stories that go far and deep and wide. So tell us a story that really, what is one of those things that formed you in this wireless ecosystem that we live?
Sure. Yeah. So, even before I got into wireless, I think what shaped me and what my foundation, where I came from, was our family dairy farm. And growing up on the family dairy farm, it really instilled discipline in me. It allowed me to work with my hands and have the mechanical advantages, and we really had to think quickly and overcome problems quickly. And the things with the farms is your input equals your output. So that means the effort you put in, the effort you put towards something really turned into what the product was that we had. And for us, it was our cattle and our cows and our crops and the milk that we produced, so that really led the way for me to get into wireless, and it gave me that good foundation. So, and then it took off from there, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, people don't really, unless you're from an area of the country or an area of your state where they're actually producing milk, people don't get a dairy farm. But a dairy farm is twice a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, is it not?
Yeah, the cows don't take a break.
They don't.
No, there's no PTO for the cows. So, and the other thing with that too is the farm was located in Minnesota. So I think that automatically qualifies me as super tough, right?
Yeah.
Growing up in the upper Midwest with the cold winters, and there's a lot of things you got to deal with.
I grew up pretty close to that in the northeast corner of South Dakota, and I remember stories, especially in the older days, about during the wintertime they would tie a rope between the barn and the house, so that if the snow started blowing and it was really cold out, they could actually get to the barn without getting lost in a whiteout or a blizzard. And they would actually grab onto that rope and follow that rope to the barn, go inside the barn, close the door. But there were people who went out into the snowstorm and never made it to the barn. They just kept going and then got lost and turned around. That's the kind of weather you have out there, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And we do have a similar story to that. We never had a rope, but we did have times where I remember clear as day is the whole family, we had to go milk the cows, and it was holding hands. And Dad led the way and went down to the barn and made sure everybody got down there, because it was that environment. It was that condition. Like, you can't see 10 feet in front of you. So that's a real thing for sure.
Yowzer. Well, you got to create a trough in the snow to get to the barn, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So when you relate that experience to wireless, it fascinates me, other than the toughness factor, because dairy farmers are tough and wireless people are tough. And we're talking to the whole wireless ecosystem here. Why did it prepare you? Why did it make you tough?
Well, I think you look at just the environment. You had to overcome adversity, right? If you were dealt a problem, you didn't have a choice. You had to figure out a solution. And wireless is the same way. And I think that's what I like about wireless is there's ever changing problems. There's always new
Yeah.
issues, and being able to take an issue, take a problem from a client, absorb it, tackle it, and come up with a solution. That's what kind of keeps me going. It's those difficult sites, those I bet you can't sites that, yeah, oh yeah, we can, So I think that's how it correlates for me.
Yeah, I have had conversations with a lot of folks in the wireless world who come to the table and they talk about the best part about being in wireless and what shaped them. And sometimes they talk about, well, this is the first time anybody had ever employed this piece of equipment, and we were the
Yep.
first ones to do it. And there weren't instructions, and there was no clear outcome or destination or thing that would say, hey, this was a success, other than when you plugged it in, it turned green. You've done that kind of stuff before?
Oh yeah, for sure. So both in the farming industry, and then for sure in the wireless industry, some of the first to market, first to table, first test equipment. Again, just overcoming some of those problems. That's what gives you fulfillment, is knowing that you found a way to overcome that obstacle, and that's put a smile on your face at the end of the day. So yeah, definitely have had those issues or issues or
Sweet
those
deal. Love that
instances. Yeah.
smile on your face at the end of the day. And what? So as you transition, then as you move forward,
Mhm.
you're moving, changing. Now you're taking care of making sure that people are appropriately trained and all that kind of stuff. What for as a reward from a reward perspective? What's the best part of working?
Yeah, so I think that's evolved over the years. And I think the reason it's evolved is because of me becoming a parent. And when I became a parent, you naturally went from looking at yourself to looking at others. And by others, obviously, your child. And I think now, today, it's kind of that same mentality of looking at your employees. We use the term family member companies, right? And I think that's so important, and we embrace that. That's the way I look at things. I look at, not that I'm a dad, I'm probably that crazy uncle, right? Um, but I look at it as a family, and when you can share knowledge and give guidance, and it's like having your kid get being able to ride this bike the first time, and you see that it's that proud moment. And it's the same thing with what we do today, is when somebody can figure out a solution on their own, or have overcome a problem, and can do it on their own, and have brought you solutions versus problems. That's that proud dad moment. And so that's what I think for me is super rewarding, is having those moments.
That is so cool, but it really extends beyond, because your involvement and engagement has really enveloped and impacted the entire wireless ecosystem. When I think about you, I think about the dude who helped develop wireless standards. Is that accurate?
Yeah. As much as I can. And I heard a quote. It was at Nate this year, and I don't know if it was Victor who said it, but it was really good and it resonated with me. Somebody said, "If you don't have a seat at the table, you're probably on the menu." And you think about that, and that's really why I do what I do. That's why I volunteer so much of my time to be on these standards, these committees, and be a part of change, and ensure that our our needs are covered from a contractor standpoint, right? There's some things that might get put out there from a standards perspective that might affect us greatly, and we want to have a say on what those standards are. And yeah, that's honestly, like, it's the dad in me of trying to keep people safe. They say standards are written in blood, right?
Yeah.
And I think as I progress in my career, I want to protect the people. So one way to do that is to try to, mitigate any hazard by having a standard that says, yeah, just don't do that.
Yeah.
And it's working smarter, not harder. So yeah, I definitely give a lot of my time and try to have a cast that net super wide, and touch so many things, because we got a lot going on, and we're fairly new in our industry. There's no Bible, there's no book. And so we're still developing those how-to standards and whatnot. So
Right on. And that extends beyond Nate also to the NWSA is another
Yeah.
organization that you're highly involved in and have been since actually like in the 2000 teens.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, sure. So NWSA, I think it's an important part of our industry. When we look back at the development of NWSA and what the need was, is we saw there was a lot of companies out there that were able to just do whatever they wanted, however they wanted, and not setting standards, not having a lot of morals and ethics and the proper way to do things at all. And so we were competing against, companies that just did not care and would have two guys and a rope from Home Depot or something and go out and compete. And it just wasn't equal. And people were getting hurt because of that. And so it came a time where we said, okay, we as an industry really need to do something. And so you look at outside. I'm a big believer in looking outside our industry into other industries that have been in similar situations and say, okay, well, what are they doing? There's licensing, there's tests and different things. And you look at like Sprat or the crane world, for example, they certify their operators and they go through a process. And so that's what we did is we partnered with a similar entity and said, okay, we need to develop basically a test to validate and verify that these individuals that are going to be working on these job sites actually know what they're doing. And it's a professional career, professional environment. Mm-hmm. So that was the original intent with it. And we're in development for updating, right? You put a product out and then you learn from it. Plan, do, check, act, right? And so we're in the act phase of that and understanding where we might have missed the mark a little bit, adjusting it, modifying it, and making it better.
Yeah. And for those of you who are like the really techie geeky people, they're renewing this standard called ANSI 19024, which says that they are a credible agency that verifies people's knowledge between their ears and then their application of that knowledge. So as a testing agency, it really just evaluates, do you know it? And then can you do it? So you guys have done a wonderful job on that. So in your role, how do you think you have best impacted the field people in the wireless industry?
Yeah, so my goal with what I'm doing is to give them tools in their toolbox to be successful, right? So we have a lot of initiatives going that with our learning management system, for one. There's so much. We have hundreds of brilliant people, men and women out in the field in middle management that have a ton of great knowledge upstairs, right? And my goal is to take that knowledge, or what I refer to as tribal knowledge, and put it in an absorbable format within a learning management system so we can share that knowledge and strengthen all our member companies that across the board, with high tides, all ships will rise, so to speak, mm-hmm. and being able to give them, more tools in their toolbox. I look at it as almost like the YouTube of wireless. If you have an issue, I guarantee you probably have gone to YouTube to figure it out. And that's what we want to do, is be able to have a platform to figure that out. That's just one thing. There's several things that I'm working on, some initiatives on recruiting and retention and making sure we're bringing the right people in and keeping our great people, for a long career. So that's what I hope I've given them for a value.
That's really cool. It reminds me of the medical industry. In medicine, so they're teaching you how to be a doctor, and you're actually going to be like, you're going to be cutting on people. So it's kind of important. And, and they say, watch one, do one, and then teach one. And that's how to increase that learning efficacy. That really is where you're headed with that tribal knowledge, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And I use the analogy of teach a man to fish, right? It's the same concept of letting them figure it out and do things and giving them guidance. Like, it does me no good to say, well, this is how you do it and tell them. But if you can show them how to do it and allow them to do it, that's when that aha moment kicks in.
Yeah, fishing sounds a whole lot better than cutting somebody open. Because,
Yeah.
especially if you've only watched it once. I mean,
Yeah.
I would prefer a physician with a little bit more experience. But
yeah, I can screw up fishing. I can't really screw up a knife cutting somebody open.
As long as you don't lose the big one, it's the guy, and then you'll have a story about the big one that got away.
Yeah.
So as you open your playbook and look down the road a little bit, so now we say we've got a map. People don't know what a map is anymore, but say you've got Google Maps and you see this destination, and it's New York City, but you're in Los Angeles. As you chart the destination on how to get over to New York, or if you prefer traveling the other way from New York to LA, and you're somewhere in the middle, and you're looking forward on workforce development. What are the big things that are in the future that as you look down the road, you're seeing, hey, this is coming?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, our journey's just getting started. I look at our 5 family member companies right now, and Ontivity as a whole, we are just literally getting started. This is something that's going to be amazing for years to come. You know, the path for what I have coming up is not to let too many cats out of the bag or
okay, this is a place where we get scoops.
Sleeve,
okay,
but...
this is a podcast where we need to hear like the latest, greatest stuff, and we divulge it to the entire wireless world.
Well, one obviously we already talked about it, is the learning management system, giving everybody that platform. That's huge, right? Second,
tell us about that platform.
Yeah, sure. So we've launched a learning management platform, which is training.ontivity.com. We've tested it with a couple entities right now, and that's gone really well. We have a pretty big roadmap in front of us. Cameron and Matt from the safety and training side are really taking that over, and it's going to be kind of your career path / courses to take as you progress through your career in the ranks, so to speak. So it really complements where you're at in your career and the types of 1, compliance training and 2, skill set trainings that you're able to get, right? So that'll be at everybody's fingertips, right on these crazy devices that we build the networks for. So yeah, that's one. But then 2 is, it's really embracing technology. You look at even like VR, what we had at NATE this year, and how can we utilize platforms like that to assist and help our team, our people, right? So there's a lot of technology in terms of training. You know, there's VR for MEWPs, and it's working smarter, not harder, and utilizing technology. Where I work with a lot of product manufacturing companies for our industry, and just the technology that's on the forefront with them is very, very, very powerful. You know, I look at companies like 3M and Ergodyne, and they're using, smartwatches to tell us we're at heights, monitoring heart rates and employees where they're at. So we can actually be proactive and know where an employee might be, health-wise, and possibly prevent some things, right? So that's, pipeline to get to New York. As long as it's the summer, we'll go to New York. If it's LA in winter, we'll go there. But it's just really embracing technology. And, again, like I said, working smarter, not harder.
All right. So we'll amend that. We love our people. And because we love our people, we're going to sign off with a simple message. Hey, thanks, Brian, for showing up. And you out there, let's choose safety today. This is Jim, and I am out.
Thanks for tuning in today, and join us every week. Tell your people to listen in and subscribe to On Radio, the voice of everything wireless.